Good evening and welcome to OmniBros Live. Here's the OmniBros new intro.
Are you actually doing a song? I was just twanging.
I was going to try and do Cashmere from Led Zeppelin. Wait, let me get to the chorus. I can't believe you have one too.
I have two, actually. The other one's a lot smaller than this one. It's like a miniature one. It's a lot more high-pitched.
Oh, you have an arsenal.
Just two. I might need to get some more because yours, like I pointed out earlier, is differently in shape than mine. Mine's a lot more rounded, like an egg shape.
And mine's
it's like a teardrop shape, I guess. Your reed, the reed looks different on yours also. It's darker. I don't know if it's another type of metal.
It's Jaw Harp Thursday here on OmniBros.
Read what this says. It says England on it.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, mine says made in the USA. It's so old it was made in the United States. Well, anyway, I'm OmniDog, and this is the Omnibus Collector. And we are the OmniBros Mouth Harp Gang. We're waiting for Lou. I don't know if Lou has a mouth harp, but we are talking just random stuff tonight. I put in the headline. It was favorite books, favorite sandwiches, and favorite summertime drinks. So we could cover a lot of information. And first, we'll start off with the InStockTrades.com with musical accompaniment by my friend, the Omnibus Collector. InStockTrades.com, where you can get your collected editions up to 50% off. Loyalty discounts add 2% to that. There's always a $50 gift card given away at the end of every month, which will be this Monday night's show. Over $50 in an order gets you $50. Or over $50 in an order gets you free shipping in the United States. Fabulous customer service, fabulous packaging. That's InStockTrades.com.
I wish, I don't know, maybe you do, but now I wish that one of us had a slide whistle.
I did have one when I was younger, but not still. This is the only thing I still have.
I think I've got a harmonica somewhere as well. It's not as funny, though.
So we're waiting for Lou. He'll be here in a little bit. Oh, Colin has a quick question. Hey, Omni folks, I'm moving next week, packing my collection. Wah, wah, or ow, I keep thwacking it.
I hear you hitting your tooth. I know that sound.
How would you recommend packing my oversized hardcovers? Go tomorrow to your local comic book store, and since they unpacked and loaded all their books up on Wednesday, so this is Thursday, they should have plenty of boxes still. Get a bunch of cardboard boxes from your local comic book store. They just put them out back in the trash. They're happy to give them to you. And that's what you should put your oversized hardcovers in, Colin.
If for whatever reason they don't have them, U-Haul, Lowe's, and Home Depot all have cardboard boxes that you can buy. I would say the number one thing is don't get anything that's too big, because then you're going to break your back trying to lift that stuff. And lift with your legs, not your back. Wear a harness or whatever, a back brace if you have one, to help. Depending on how big your collection is, it can take a lot out of you. Take plenty of breaks, drink plenty of water, keep your muscles healthy while you're moving your stuff. I would say if you're super duper concerned about transit damage, then maybe wrap with paper or bubble wrap in between the books and stuff. Usually, I'm going to be completely honest, I don't worry about that when I move my books, because I'm the one moving them, so I trust. It's not like I'm sending it through UPS or USPS where I'm worried about if they're throwing the boxes around. I know what I'm doing with my boxes. But yeah, that's it. That's my advice. The other advice is, like, my wife and I have moved with my collection in tow so many times that I always recommend, if you are capable of doing it, hire movers that can pack your stuff into the truck and unpack your stuff to your home whenever you move, because that alleviates so much stress and saves a lot of time.
And I played accompaniment to that. And a couple of people, Next to Maginaut and Rich L, both say Staples Bankers boxes. Staples Bankers boxes. Can't recommend them enough.
Ones with the lids
and holes,
handles,
grip holes, handles.
That's what I'm imagining whenever they're saying that.
Would you say stacking is okay instead of packing vertically, for example?
If it's not for a very extended period of time, I'd say it's fine. But like, usually I do them vertical in the box myself whenever I've moved them, and just fill up as much space in the box as you can. So the boxes that I've used usually it'd just be a bunch of them like that, and then maybe one this way, perpendicular to those, I guess. And then any filler, any room that's left over, just shove paper, packing peanuts, whatever I have around. Man, Jess, when I grow up, I want to be as good of a mouth harpist, jaw harpist as you are.
Now you have a new goal.
Like I'm not, I can't get the deep tones that you can get. Like, no matter what I do with my tongue, it just doesn't.
You have to. And here's Comics Guide, the Invisible Man. Do you have your mouth harp with you?
Mouth harp.
Wow. I log in and the first thing I see is you guys playing with rubber bands. We have hit peak OmniBros.
This is what would have saved the Pop-Tarts episode.
We have peaked
The theme song with a thing. So what favorite books are we talking about? Just like, are we talking about what we've been reading lately, or? Because I was busy all day. I didn't talk to you.
I just put favorite books, favorite sandwiches, favorite summertime drink. So,
well, I'm about to read the first volume of Die Dark. This is Q Hayashida. She did Dorohedoro, which is one of my favorites. And then this is a review copy from Viz Media. They sent me this. It arrived yesterday.
wow.
For a new series called World Peace. It comes out in a couple of weeks, I think. The middle of June. We're in May, right? Yeah, the middle of June. So I am going to be reading this pretty soon and then loading a review of it. Actually, the artwork looks really nice. I don't know what the story is really about, but it looks pretty cool. I'm really thankful that they reached out for that, and then we'll see what opportunities they give. And I just finished reading the hardcover Super Sentai Go Ranger by Ishinomori, Shotaro Ishinomori, and that was really fun. I felt like it was a good. People ask a lot like about comics to share with your kids. If you or your kids enjoy like Power Rangers and Super Sentai stuff, that book is great. Let me grab it so I can show anyone who might need that recommendation.
As he goes back into the stacks of the library.
But I know where they are because of the Riley decimal system.
That's right.
So this is the book Super Sentai Himitsu Sentai Go Ranger. This is Shotaro Ishinomori's Super Sentai series. This is from the first Sentai. Eventually, like number 17, I think, was Q Ranger, which became Mighty Morphin Power Rangers in English. Ishinomori also is very famous for Cyborg 009 and did the Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past manga adaptation that was in Nintendo Power. It's a nice hardcover volume. It's got a $25 cover price. Very all audiences friendly, in my opinion. It says teen 10 plus on the back, so pretty good for if you have a kiddo or a niece or nephew or cousin who's into the Sentai type stuff, tokusatsu or whatever it's called. That's definitely a good book to talk about. And the other book that's been on my mind lately, I haven't reread it, but I was talking about it a lot, was Spider-Man. In my opinion, the greatest Spider-Man story of all time.
Oh.
I'm not going to screw with you. Kraven's Last Hunt.
Oh.
I was like, Sins of the Past? No.
And he just got cast in what? He's going to be Kraven in what movie are we talking?
Yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson is cast as Kraven in a movie that's going to be part of the Sony Spider-Verse movies.
Okay.
Which I'm not really crazy about that casting.
Yeah, which may or may not be connected to the MCU. They still don't know as far as what's going on there.
Yeah, I think we'll be able to judge a little bit better after the next couple movies hit with Carnage and Morbius. Especially because that Morbius teaser had Vulture in it.
Yeah, the Morbius movie is flat out that has to be in the MCU. Like there's no denying that. There's Vulture's in it.
Vulture, Michael Keaton Vulture?
Mm-hmm. He's in the teaser trailer at the end. He pops up and like they have like an image of Spider-Man on the wall, but it is, to be fair, it is the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man suit. So it has me wondering if some of the, I don't know, there might be some weird multiversey shit going on between these movies. I've seen some people saying that there's some photos of Tobey walking around and he's looking a little more buff than he has, and he doesn't have a beard anymore, and he usually does wear a beard. So there's people thinking he might have been filming something for a Spider-Man movie. So, I mean, it's all just conjecture. Who knows? No one knows for real. But I was talking about Kraven's Last Hunt. Literally, like, I made a video about it. Not on my channel, but like someone asked me on TikTok, what are your favorite Spider-Man channels or comics? Because I had this really good wave of people who are manga readers asking about comics, and I'm like, yes, finally, this is what I've been waiting for, is like to help people cross over. And so I'm talking about my favorite Spider-Man stories, and I immediately go to that one, and then like literally the next 2 hours, I get a notification on my phone saying that Aaron Taylor Johnson was cast supposedly as Kraven. So like, what a coincidence. Coincidence? I think not.
I think not. Ow!
The pain of a jaw harp player. So yeah, I was looking through and just looking at the artwork from that book reminded of how fantastic it is. Such a dark story also.
Andrew Wan says, I like manga, but I miss Omnibus Collector talking about Marvel and DC. Well, he's talking about Marvel right now, so that's pretty good.
Yeah. Anyway, so back to the manga.
Yeah, here's a manga question for you. Ajin Demi Human worth a read? Netflix watch?
I tried to watch the first episode and I couldn't make it through the first episode. It didn't vibe with me, but I do read the series. It's really enjoyable, but it's one of the fastest reads. Like each of those volumes I finish within like 15 to 20 minutes. And I'm like, it's like a $13 book. So I'm not spending $13, but the price is kind of up there for something that's so quick to read. I like it. I like it a lot. The artwork's beautiful. The action is great, but it's a small amount of material for the price that you're paying, basically.
Speaking of manga, Molly has been reading some stuff and posting these amazing reviews in the manga group. I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't been online in so long.
Oh man,
on
you're
Facebook.
missing out. You're missing out. Shouts out to her. She's posting some incredible reviews of some very interesting manga. So
This
if you
is
get a chance,
Molly Foley?
huh?
Molly Foley?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So if you get a chance, you should check those out, Riley.
I'll have to log in at some point and see stuff. Just been so busy with everything else, and I have like 2 or 3 sponsored videos that I have to take care of. So there's just a million things going on. And I planned on getting back on Facebook at some point, like the past month or 2, and I just haven't done it. There's been too much to deal with.
Here is a $5 super chat. Can I have from John Lover one? Can I have a request for the Omnibus Collector? Can you show full design T-shirt you wear now with full screen and standing? Okay, wait, let me highlight him. There he is.
Hold on, let me.
T you have there.
So this I actually received recently. I bought this last week. I got 5 T-shirts in the mail. This was one of them. This is from Jujutsu Kaisen. I just like the colorful design, but I usually wear black T-shirts, so I had to put it on a black T-shirt. Even though most people usually put it on like a lighter colored shirt. I also got Chainsaw Man, Evangelion, Purikuri, and something else. I don't remember. Oh, Dorohedoro. I also got a Dorohedoro shirt. And literally, the day I got them, I went back because there was a ton of designs by the same person that I wanted. And I went back on, they were on Etsy. And I clicked through and their store was shut down. And so now, like, anyone that mentions my shirt or any of those shirts as I've been wearing them, I can't help them because the store doesn't exist anymore. So I guess, like, just look on Etsy for Jujutsu Kaisen shirts and see what happens.
That's what I'm going to do. Look for Jujutsu Kaisen. Sure.
I know you're gonna do it. But what? So I loved, like I said, Kraven's Last Hunt. What do you guys think about? Do you have any thoughts on that story that you would like to share, since it's out in the air right now?
Go ahead, Lou.
I mean, Kraven's Last Hunt is a classic, and I personally think it's a good entry point for somebody that wants to get into Spider-Man. It's pretty self-contained. You don't need to know anything about it.
Yep.
Other than Kraven is pretty much, like it implies, he's hunting Spider-Man. That's basically the general gist of it. It also has one of the best fucking moments, I think, of Spider-Man in a while. I would put it up there probably with that classic moment of Steve Ditko, where Spider-Man is lifting the pipes. It's I'm not going to give it away, but it's a really powerful moment where Peter overcomes something huge and he does something pretty badass in this story. It's a really fucking great read, and it's a classic for a reason. I would say there's not many self-contained small Spider-Man stories that you can read without having to read through a lot. Like, if you want to read the Venom story, or you want to read like the Rogers, a lot of the stuff of Spider-Man, it's interesting because it's long arcs. It's told over a huge amount of time. There's not really the small stuff, and this is one of those where you can jump into it, you can read it, and you get a full, satisfying story all the way through to the end of it.
Yeah, I find exactly what you're saying to be absolutely true about Spider-Man having mostly like longer form arcs, because a lot of Spider-Man, especially, no, not through any general age, like in general, most Spider-Man, the main stories, the main runs are always kind of this long form soap opera type of story where you're following Peter through the trials and tribulations of whatever that writer is doing. And Kraven's Last Hunt was this self-contained 6-issue storyline where when I was talking about it, someone asked me, like, but I have to read something else before this, right? And I was like, no, not really. Just know who Spider-Man is. Because you really don't even need to know much about Kraven going in there, because Kraven introduces who he is. Because this storyline is the one that really turned him into what he would become thereafter. Not to spoil any stuff, but it's exactly like you said. It's a good self-contained story. It's a short story. You can get it in multiple formats, digital, paperback. The deluxe hardcover has a lot of cool extra stuff in there. Basically, any time that J.M. DeMatteis wrote about Kraven, as well as Kraven's first appearance. And it's such a, like, it's a great psychological series looking both into the mind of the antagonist and the protagonist in a way that anyone can enjoy. Like, it could be any character. It could be characters that you've never even heard of before, but you get to see what they're going through and like what Kraven's motivations are and why he feels the way that he does at certain points in the story, what Peter has to go through, what he's dealing with as the story progresses, and like what he talks about, because things have happened before the story that impact Peter's place mentally and emotionally, but you don't need to know about it. He tells you about it. And that's something that really works well in this story's favor. And J.M. DeMatteis was not like the ongoing writer at the time. His runs were really sporadic. Like, his material on Spider-Man was like a few issues here, a few issues there. He would have some larger material, but this was just one of those sporadic things. It was, over a few months, crossing over between the 3 Spider-Man titles. So I highly recommend it. Like, for people who've never read Spider-Man before, like, do you want something that's a little darker, a little bit more mature than what you might expect from Spider-Man? Go with this one. It's great.
Right. Yeah, that's what I've always found pretty fascinating about the character of Peter, is that he lends himself so much to long form storytelling. Even in the early days of those Stan Lee and Steve Ditko stories, I mean, for the most part, they were soap operas. They were like, oh, Peter is a young guy, and they wrote him so he could be very relatable to teenagers and like nerds and stuff of that time period. But for the most part, it was, will he, won't he? Will he get the girl? Will he not? And it was revolving a lot around the drama of his life and living with Aunt May and what that was like. And he was kind of a little prick also back in those first few issues. He was not a nice guy. If you look back in those issues, he was like, I'm going to get revenge on you one day. Kind of one of those guys. But he lends himself much more to long-form storytelling just because he's got that Parker luck where something's going to go wrong for him after something amazingly great happens for him. And that's typically the formula that most writers have used throughout the character's life. Is he's going to have amazing highs, and then he's going to crash and burn and have really bad lows.
The way that a lot of Spider-Man stories were written also dictated a lot of the collected editions that we'd see, and the like pre-modern era collected editions of Spider-Man, like before everything got collected. You can go back to like early collections for the Carnage introduction storyline, early collections for Hobgoblin, and early collection of Jerry Conway's original Clone Saga. Clone Genesis, I think, is what the first trade was called. And they'll just collect bits and pieces of a lot of issues because of the format that the series were in, where it was this long form drama. There were only like 1 or 2 scenes from an issue that would have something to do with whatever the subject was, and then you wouldn't see that unravel until a while later, which is really genius. It's a really great way to tell the narrative because you're slowly threading up and you're slowly threading the storyline through all of your material. So you might have an issue that has nothing to do with Venom or Eddie Brock, but you have a scene in there where Eddie Brock shows up for an instant. And that little scene where he shows up for an instant winds up being pretty important to the ongoing narrative before Peter and Venom wind up facing off against each other. So I really love that. And it's nice now that we have these very complete collections of material that they're working on. So we have every issue, so you can experience it in its whole. But it's very different from what we had. So it sometimes is hard for me to recommend, like when people want to get into Spider-Man, it's not that easy for me to recommend stories because it's hard to pinpoint something. Because I wind up saying like, read the JMS run. It's great aside from like two little aside from like two little missteps. It's a fantastic run. Or read Dan Slott's material. Or I even like, I was looking at my shelf and I'm like, there's a lot of good, but also a lot of not so good during Brand New Day. So it's like hard to recommend Brand New Day as an era because there's so many like duty stories, but there's also a lot of really great stuff in there. It's just it's all over the place.
That's one of the reasons why I really liked Superior Spider-Man so much, because it, say what you will about it, and Slott got so much unnecessary shit for that book. But he also likes to poke the bear a lot. That run was fucking fun. Superior Spider-Man was so much fun all the way through, seeing Otto Octavius try to fool everybody, and that's a great... It's not really Peter as Spider-Man, but it's still a great, fun Spider-Man-esque story to read, and seeing Otto Octavius try to fool everybody and try to genuinely be a better Spider-Man and a good Spider-Man.
Absolutely. That's exactly what whenever I talk about it, I'm like, the best part about it is Otto. It's called Superior Spider-Man because he wants to be a superior Spider-Man. He believes that he can surpass everything that Peter did while he was Spider-Man. He believes that he can be the better version of what he was. And he finds out like
in
all
some
the
ways
issues that Peter had to go through.
But
in a lot of ways.
In some ways he is, because he does improve his life a lot. Like he basically just goes, this guy is a genius and he doesn't have his doctorate degree. What the hell is going on with him? Like this.
Yeah.
And he ultimately ends up having a really solid relationship that falls through. But he in a lot of ways improves Peter's life, and in a lot of ways screws him over. And that's really the fascinating part of it, is that you're watching this all go down and you're thinking, when is he going to get caught? How is he going to get caught? And, because it's comics. Eventually, Peter's going to come back in some way, shape, or form. And how is Peter going to come back? But along the way, it's an amazing ride. And I remember people going, shit, Peter's back when the run finally ended.
Yep. And then they bring Otto back for the other material. They brought him back briefly for Spider-Verse, and then he wound up later getting his own 12-issue series. That was really fun, like because people really love that version of the character. It's so funny how like the general consensus of the, I don't want to say the consensus of fans in general, but like the general consensus of the loudest fans is to hate any sort of change. But once that change happens, it's almost universally appreciated. And then people are upset when it goes back. So I mean, I love that run. I agree. I think that was one of the high points of modern Spider-Man, and it was definitely the highest point of. Aside from that, Slott's run I enjoyed all, like from front to back, but before that there was like smaller peaks, and then after that there's smaller peaks. But that was like a solid 30 issues of A+ material.
Yeah, that was really, for me, that was where his run peaked the most. After that, I was like, I'm not really feeling the rest of this. But I like that you brought up the changing thing, because I remember the blowback that Jason Aaron got with female Thor when Jane Foster took over the mantle of Thor, and now she's getting her own fucking movie. Thor: Love and Thunder is going to be a Jane Foster Thor story. It has to be. They confirmed she's getting the hammer, so they have to play that up. So, and for the most part, a lot of comic fans really liked her as Thor. I haven't read the Valkyrie stuff, but I kind of miss her taking on the mantle of Thor, because she looked badass. It was awesome.
It was great. I love the way that they hide it from you for a solid almost year worth of material about who the character is, and then that way whenever it's revealed, it has so much gravity behind it. Because they're not only, Jason Aaron did this so well, because not only did he introduce us mysteriously to the fact that there is this female Thor, but he doesn't tell you who it is, and he also gives you like multiple different people that you could believe that it might be.
Yeah.
Like I think that what's her name, Roz, the Shield agent that he had that appeared earlier in his run before all this, I think she was the one that I thought it was going to be. I was convinced. I thought it was going to be her because he had set her up to play a larger role.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love that. And you know what? We're kind of jumping from character to character and story to story, but like the way that he handled that reveal in Thor is the way that I wish Jeff Loeb could have handled Red Hulk. Because the whole mystery behind Red Hulk, number one, was drawn on for too long. It was almost 2 years before we found out who the Red Hulk was. And number two, it just like partially came out of nowhere, but partially was obvious. I don't know. Like it's one of those things where I was like, God, why didn't I know this? He could have handled it so much better. And I think that Jason Aaron kind of writes the blueprint for exactly how that could have gone. You should have had it done in, less than a year, string your people along, and then have the big reveal. And I think that once it was revealed and once we get the idea of like who the Red Hulk actually was, it's like, oh, and people who watch this channel for a while, and y'all know that I love the Red Hulk, especially when Jeff Parker comes in, because he's such a tragic character. It works so well that you have this guy who becomes what he hates. He turns himself into what.
For 5 issues, he gets his ass beat by the Marvel Universe. Basically, I love it.
I love it, though. Man, like you get into Jeff Parker's run, and he's like, "All right, well, I'm ready to go back to being myself," and then they're like, "Well, you can't because Thunderbolt Ross is a wanted man." And he's like, well, shit. So I'm stuck as this monster. I'm stuck as the thing that I hate. So Parker came in and immediately
huge mistake.
Yeah, he immediately like picks this up and cleans it up, and he's like, "This is what we're gonna do." I was like, "Yes, this is great." But Jeff Loeb just kind of teetered along and tottered along, and another thing, character reveals, identity reveals.
Yeah,
Jeff Loeb is guilty of it. I've talked about it on this channel, I think, many times before. Jeff Loeb is guilty of it in Hush, and I would say that Snyder was guilty of it on the Court of Owls, and maybe even on Black Mirror. I think you can consider what I call Scooby-Doo syndrome, where they introduce you to an important character, and then by the end of the storyline, you're like, oh, they were the bad guy the whole time. Just like an episode of Scooby-Doo.
You shut your whore mouth. Black Mirror is a classic. I love
Black Mirror. But I was thinking about it because I was thinking about how Snyder did it on Court of Owls. And I was like, I think he did the same thing with Black Mirror. I love that storyline. But now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, I'm like, he might have done the same thing there. It's been a while since I read it, so he probably didn't. Since it didn't really I didn't see it as such before. I'm probably just blabbing.
Scooby-Doo. I'm not picking up on the Scooby-Doo Batman Court of Owls moment.
So they introduced, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't read the first 12 issues or whatever of New 52 Batman.
9 years ago.
Yeah, the first arc in the first issue they introduced Lincoln March. And Lincoln March is like, oh, he's the big important guy. He's going to be the mayor, yada, yada, yada.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then as the story continues and you have like the main Talon or whatever, you find out that it's Lincoln March, and that Lincoln March has connections to Batman and stuff.
Okay.
So it was something where like I liked the way that he handled that better than like Loeb handled Hush and that reveal, because that one was just painfully obvious. You're like, all right, well, here's Thomas Elliot. He's Bruce's best friend. And all of a sudden there's a guy that's out here doing stuff. But the way to do it is the way that Jason Aaron did it, where like he introduces a new villain, or not a new villain. He introduces a mysterious character. He doesn't give you the identity, but he gives you several different characters that you're going to scratch your head about. And then a year later, he finally reveals it, and you're like, oh my gosh. So, 33% of the people out there are like, I knew it. I knew it was going to be Jane. And then the other 67% of the people are like, oh, damn it. I thought it was so-and-so or so-and-so. Like it was so well handled. I
will say I thought it was Jane, but I didn't know in Hush that it was his childhood friend. But I did think it was Jane.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if I'm slow, but I remember reading Hush a long time ago and actually being surprised.
Okay, cool.
I mean, it works for. It does surprise a lot of people, and I think the first time I read it, I did get surprised, but it was also the book that made me realize that this thing happens a lot. My so-called Scooby-Doo syndrome.
Right.
Um,
I'm going to try and do that on the mouth harp.
Are we doing Scooby-Doo theme song now? But I think it was after that though that I started realizing more things like that, where I was like, damn it, they're just introducing like the villain at the beginning. And so I started to try and figure out how would I do it better, like if I was to write it. And it was basically what Jason Aaron did. You have multiple choices.
Well, I mean, hold on. Jason Aaron is not immune to dragging things out as well, because we got Original Sin where that was not that great of an event, and then you've got that whole thing with Thor, like, oh, he suddenly becomes unworthy because of what they tell him, and then they drag the whole thing out for like 2 years, and then it's like, oh, Gore basically was right. That was what you were told. That's it. But that's the unfortunate thing about something as big as that, where it cannot live up to whatever expectation you set up, because everybody's going to have all these theories. Everybody's going to have what's going on in their mind, and it was dragged out for so long that it kind of killed the buzz of it.
Wait, what book are we talking about?
Original Sin.
Oh. I'm glad I played the music over that because I haven't read that yet.
Okay, cool.
It's honestly not great. It has a couple of cool concepts that come out of it, but like,
I know I have to read that before I get into everything else now. And I have like 4 other Thor trade paperbacks that I have to read now too, and all my Thor hardcovers before I can get into War of the Realms. I have like 7 or 8 Thor hardcovers, it seems like.
So what do y'all think about this? Has been my strategy whenever these people who are not yet into comics ask about stuff. I said today that if you're trying to get into a certain character, so let's take Spider-Man. You say you want to get into Spider-Man. I said ask yourself 2 questions. Number 1, are you more interested in classic or modern? And number 2, is there a specific villain or storyline that you are interested in? I think those are the 2 best questions to ask yourself at the beginning, because I think that that's also kind of what I asked myself when I started collecting. Because I was like, I know I love Spider-Man. I've watched a hell of a lot of Spider-Man cartoons. I've watched the movies. I'm familiar, from video games and all that stuff as well, and a few of the comics that I had already read, what I'm interested in. And I knew that I wanted to go more towards the classic, because at the time, I didn't really like the art style that I was seeing from a lot of the modern stuff, which I don't mind now. Like, I grew into it. And so from there, I was like, all right, well, I am interested in Venom. I'm interested in Carnage. I'm interested in the Green Goblin. I'm interested, like, basic big enemies and stuff.
9 times out of 10, you're going to get somebody that's going to say, I want to read a Venom book. Like, that's probably what you're going to get.
And then I'd say, like, well, do you want to go for the classic? Do you want to go for the original Venom stuff? Then we can get Michelini and McFarlane. We can look at those stories. I think it's a pretty good... The other track that I usually send people down is, like, if you're interested in a character, go on Google and just search best Spider-Man stories, best Batman stories, and whatever, like, all these top 10 lists, read those lists, read the descriptions, and see what sounds good to you. And then from there, pick a story, read it, and you find out from there, reading all these big, popular, recommended stories, you find out what writers you enjoy, you find out what characters you enjoy aside from that main character, because it's Batman, you're going to learn about villains, maybe other members of the Justice League, and then you just expand from there. And my favorite thing is to use that as a way to kind of show people that it's not really about the characters, it's more about the writers. So, like, I talked about before with I use Black Widow as a reference. I was like, if you're excited for the Black Widow movie coming out, you look up what are the best Black Widow stories. Let's say you read the Mark Waid Black Widow and love it.
That's it.
then you know that you probably like Mark Waid, and then you bounce around and read like Mark Waid Daredevil, Mark Waid Captain America, Mark Waid did some Spider-Man. So you read all these things by Mark Waid and you expand from there because you're like, man, I really loved Mark Waid's work on Daredevil. I'd like to read more about that character. And you go to other. So I'm kind of just reverberating off of you guys what my tactics have been lately in trying to help people to discover comics. Because it's overwhelming. Well, it's definitely overwhelming.
It is. It's very overwhelming. I mean, for me, I usually go with, okay, well, kind of like you, what character do you want to read? And let's say they say Daredevil. And I was like, all right, cool. So if you want to read Daredevil, I always recommend everybody start with Frank Miller, because that's where a lot of Elektra, that's where the Bullseye relationship really starts to kick in a lot more. That's where you start getting the hand, a lot of the ninja stuff. And it's like, okay, once you read that, all right, if you like that, kind of jump into the Kevin Smith stuff for a little bit. Kevin Smith wrote a great Daredevil run with Joe Quesada in the 90s. It was a lot of fun. Then after that, okay, now you're getting into the hard stuff. You're going to go into Brian Michael Bendis, then Ed Brubaker, and then Mark Waid. You can fucking skip Shadowland. And then you jump into the Chip Zdarsky stuff, because there was a period of Daredevil stuff, the Charles Soule stuff, which I never read it, but I heard it was just mixed, and Chip Zdarsky is writing one hell of an amazing Daredevil run. And I love what he's doing with Elektra in that book right now.
Cool.
Even though I ruined it for you?
I'm several months behind. I'm very much behind on everything that I'm reading right now, and it's awful.
I ruined Daredevil for you.
Well, you probably inadvertently ruined something for me too.
No, I didn't. Oh, I don't know. Maybe I did.
You might have.
It was in the chat, and I don't think you.
Sorry. Just ruined it for me months ago.
So, what are y'all's like favorites that you've been reading lately? What's on the top of your mind?
I read a new book that I talked about Saturday. It's from Behemoth Comics. It's Osaka Mime.
Okay, you got me.
And I'll read the back of it and show you art. Wait, let me highlight myself because the art's good too. It's by an American writer and artist, Osaka Mime from Behemoth Press. When a couple is found brutally murdered in the Dotonbori district of Osaka, Japan, two detectives from the supernatural unit of the Osaka PD must hunt down and apprehend a dangerous and murderous mime, a shadowy shapeshifter which can take the form of the last person it ate. How do you catch something so dangerous that can hide in plain sight? And these are two detectives that live in a world where werewolves and vampires exist. So it's sort of like their X-Files meets Grimm type of TV series. Like this is a guy that lives in their world. And so they're out trying to solve this murder that's a rookie cop and an old weazened dude in the Osaka PD who just chain smokes. And they one of the main sources of info is right here. He runs a satanic cult.
Nice.
And he also teaches. He's a respected professor at Osaka University. And so he knows a lot about the underground, and he's this detective, the old guy's like main source into the underworld. And so they follow a lot of false leads, and because there's some other mimes at work, but mimes are like these black, solid black creatures that are tall, and they assume the identity, but not necessarily all the. Here's a good shot of what these mimes look like. They assume the identity of the people, but not necessarily their memories, and so that's how you trip them up. And it is a really good horror detective mystery. I don't know where you can find it right now, except maybe your LCS. I found mine at my LCS, and Behemoth is out of it right now, the publisher. It's also available online, and so I would say Comixology or online somehow is your best bet. But I loved this book. It had a really cool ending. The very ending part of it, it was very satisfying, beginning, middle, and end. It was really well done. I had never heard of either of these creators, Andy Levy and Hugo Arajo. And it's all in black and white, but it's still really powerful and really cool. And I just loved this book. I read it last week. So that's my favorite book of recent days.
Damn. Yeah, I can't won't see a physical copy online.
Yeah, you may have to find it.
Have to go inside somewhere.
Sorry?
Have to go to an actual store and go inside and
You might have to, yeah. You might have to see if your LCS had it. I think I actually had to special order. No, I picked it up right there at the LCS last week. I went to Annapolis last Thursday, a week ago today, and they had a copy there. But it's really cool. I really dug it.
Yeah, that sounds super freaking cool. It also sounds like the perfect type of thing that I could recommend to people who don't read comics yet, who do read manga, which, as I mentioned earlier, is a big thing that's a concern of mine, is helping people to get there.
Yeah.
So that I might have to, I don't really have an LCS that I can go to, but I might have to try and venture to find one. I think the closest ones are probably 45 to an hour away.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, mine's an hour away.
Damn, okay. Well, I'm just lazy then, I guess.
I just saw something that said Jess the Legend brag. Let's focus on that. Leslie Ann Sale says, I followed through with Jess's recommendation of all new Wolverine. Yes, Omnibus. I had so much fun and now a fan of the character. Many thanks, Tom Taylor and Jess the Legend brag. Thank you, Leslie Ann. Awesome. I'm glad. That is one of my all-time favorite books.
Did other people? I really enjoyed the follow-up X-23 series. Did other people read and feel the same way?
I liked it a lot. The one by Mariko Tamaki?
Yes, I was like, who wrote it? I forgot who. Yes, I really I like that one a lot too. I'm not going to say any better than All New Wolverine, but as a good follow-up, and also like something that was tying into what was going on with a bunch of different characters at that time. It was nice to see what was going on with Laura. And I also liked it because we got to see more of like the Stepford Cuckoos.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part about it, because y'all know I love Morrison. Anything that goes back to their run, anything that utilizes heavily characters from Morrison's run is an A+ in my book.
Yeah, I was sorry that didn't go further. That was only like 2 trades, right?
Yeah, it only got like 12 issues. I wish that it would have gotten a little bit more attention so we could maybe get a hardcover of it, but
yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. So if you want to follow through, read X-23 by Mariko Tamaki. It was really good. I loved it a lot, and so did Riley.
Hey, quick question, right? Now that you jumped onto Morrison's X-Men run, how did you feel about the Zorn reveal?
In that series?
Yeah, did you feel like it was planned from the beginning, or was that kind of shoehorned in there? Because I remember people were kind of mixed on that one. I didn't care for it too much simply because I liked the character as his own, and then I'm like, okay, there's a big reveal there.
God, it's been so long since I read it, but like I remember when I read it feeling definitely very surprised, and I wasn't upset about the reveal or anything. Like I also enjoyed Zorn as a character, and then reading it when that happened, I don't know, I have this I don't know how to describe, like when I'm reading, I have a very like naive sense about me. I have that same Zorn. He's sitting up on one of those shelves back there.
I think but I to me. Did you send this to me and get another one?
No, I sent you Phantom X and Machine Man.
Okay, right. Phantom X.
I like that Machine Man figure because he has the long arms and stuff.
Yeah.
But so many great characters and so many great stories came out of that run. Jesus.
Oh yeah. But I'm kind of a naive reader. I don't know if that's the right word to say it, but when I'm reading something, I just kind of roll with whatever the story is that the author is doing, and I'm like wide-eyed and accepting of it because I
Yeah.
know that that's what they've been wanting to do. So I didn't have any sort of like expectation, I guess, and I was just happy to see how it rolled out. But I know that I haven't read it yet, but I know that Zorn was used again by Chuck Austin. If that means anything to anyone.
Hmm.
And he introduced it as like there's two different Zorns, and then I think there was also an Ultimate Zorn. So if you want more of like Zorn,
Yeah,
That was the first X-Men book I ever read was New X-Men.
Yeah, my disappointment came from the fact that I really liked him as his own character. I was like, oh, he genuinely seems like he cares for
yeah.
the really outcast mutants, like the ones that even the mutants don't really like. And he seemed like a cool dude. And then it's like, oh, is this editorial that did this, or is this part of Grant
But I guess
Morrison's plan?
that could make sense though. Like that kind of makes sense from seeing that be Magneto, like the one who cares about the outcast mutants, the one who cares about the people that like the X-Men are not really caring about would be Magneto. I don't know. I liked it. I liked Magneto's part in that storyline. Magneto's one of my favorite characters. I hesitate so much to call him a villain because he's become so much less of a villain and more of a kind of anti-hero, but definitely a heroic figure for the mutants. Especially, I think that like Magneto, God, looking at it now, the way that Magneto is with his ideals about mutant kind works so much better for actually, because like Charles Xavier was basically his ideal was mutants just make yourself okay for society so that people don't have to worry about you, like integrate yourselves quietly into society, whereas Magneto was the one who was like, no, we're mutants, like we're not gonna limit ourselves, we're going to be who we are. And like that's something that growing up, like I appreciate so much more as an adult, being like, yeah, like whoever I am, I'm not gonna limit that. I'm not gonna quiet myself with who I am. Like,
Yeah.
but God, I freaking love Magneto. I was watching a video of someone who was watching X-Men First Class for the first time, and y'all remember like how like I called him Swagnito in that movie whenever it first came out because he was just so the opening scene, the scene where he's like running through and those dudes are shooting and he's just like taking all the stuff, and then the ending with the coin.
Oh yeah. My dude definitely had the drip going on throughout that whole movie,
gosh.
man. He
Yeah,
was
that black turtleneck sweater.
he was decked out throughout the whole thing, man. No, what do you guys? So, how do you guys think they're gonna translate Magneto now? Because at this point, Magneto would have to be 90 years old if he's a Holocaust survivor. And really, do you want to see the X-Men whooping an old man's ass for like 3 movies or something like that? I mean, the back doorway and the cheap writer way would be, oh, his mutation just makes him age slowly. And I'd be like, oh, that was kind of the lazy man's out for that. Or do they modernize him and do they make him, and I know people will throw a fucking fit, do they make him not a Holocaust survivor, but make him something else, a survivor of another mass genocide?
Or do you take Magneto out of the equation and have him be a revolutionary mutant who was a Holocaust survivor, who was like, he and the Brotherhood and the X-Men have been completely unknown to history because history has kept them hidden and erased, the same way that they did in Falcon and the Winter Soldier with Isaiah.
Yeah.
And then whenever we find out that mutants actually exist, it's something like this, they're hidden by the government, or they're Morlocks and stuff like that. Like that's why they don't exist in society. And you find out that there's like this new brotherhood of like younger mutants who know of Magneto's legend and who Magneto was. And you could have the same thing, like Professor Xavier could also no longer exist. Like he could be long dead. Magneto could be long dead. and you have like the older generation of mutants, like Scott and Jean be these actually kind of in their maybe even in their 50s types of characters who are going to be more leader figures than they are. I don't know. That's the only other idea that I could have about how it might work without stripping the Holocaust or like you said, the annoyingly cheap de-aging magic. or being like, oh, they're from another dimension, because it's just too easy to say that.
Yeah. I mean, there's time travel. There's every possibility that I thought of. I was like, yeah, there's backdoor ways you could do it, but it just sounds kind of lazy. It's like, yeah, okay, he's a mutant. He ages slowly. There you go, nerds, enjoy it. That's. I think it would be far more interesting if you play around with the concept. If you move it up that he's a victim of another mass genocide, not taking anything away, obviously, from the Holocaust and all that. It was tragic and it was horrible, but maybe add something else to the character,
so that he's not 90 years old.
Yeah, so he's not 90 years old.
It's definitely going to be a really difficult decision on how they handle this, and I think that's why they've like pushed it so far. Because even though we know that like the X-Men are coming, that the mutants are going to be coming, we haven't gotten explicit statements on like how or who or when or what. It's just it's going to happen. Whereas we've gotten explicit statement like, yes, Fantastic Four will be happening.
Yeah,
like we know that that's going to be a movie, but we don't know. Well, didn't they announce? I think they announced something just called the Mutants, or was that a fever dream, or was that a rumor?
No, they haven't announced anything with mutants yet.
Okay.
They're taking their sweet time. I mean, I think they want to distance themselves as far away from the Fox stuff and wait a few more years. I honestly don't think we'll get anything mutant related for a couple more years. And even then, I have to wonder if they're gonna go the full-on traditional X-Men and then maybe wait it out to bring in Wolverine and to bring in some of those other characters. And if they're just gonna start, okay, we're gonna take it super easy. This is our core team. Scott, Jean, and Iceman, just the central original characters, because that seems like what they've been doing lately. And then we're going to blow it up and we're going to introduce other characters along the way.
Or what if they just say like, you know what, screw it, we're going to do another separate universe.
Oh my god!
And start from the beginning with the X-Men and just try to. Hey, I've heard a lot of people saying the TV route, like doing Disney Plus shows, might be the best way to do the introduction, though.
If they give me a Dupe miniseries in the way that they do MODOK, then I'm all good. I'm good with that. I just want a Dupe miniseries.
I don't care what else you do, just give me Dupe.
Just give me Dupe.
Dupe.
Imagine like we get to Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 10 and it's called Phase X, and this is where like they drop literally everything else and just do mutants. Like Kevin Feige's no longer in charge because by this time he's probably retired or gone. Now we have like some other young buck has come in and decided to take over, and he's like, maybe it's me or something. And I'm like, all right, Phase X. We're gonna have the X-Men, the Uncanny X-Men, X-Factor, X-Force, and have like one for each team, the New Mutants.
I mean, at some point they're gonna have to reboot. At some point, right? Like you're gonna have to at some point. I think they're hedging their bets that these characters that they're bringing in now are going to be really popular as Captain America and all this stuff. And it very well could be, I would have a few years ago, Jesus Christ, I would have never thought that a talking raccoon would be one of Marvel's biggest characters. Like who the fuck knew that Guardians of the Galaxy would be as big as they are? But I'm kind of wondering if they're really banking on this and maybe they have their own backdoor way of like, okay, if these next few movies or these next few arcs don't really play it like we think they do, fuck it, we'll reboot.
As long as I can see Emma Frost and the Stepford Cuckoos in a movie or TV show or both or at my house, I don't care. Get them going.
I mean, they're in your toy collection, so
that's true.
Kind of got them.
Oh God! Imagine if they ditch the name X-Men and go with X-People.
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 Yeah, and then I want X-23 to have her own universe, her own show. X-23 needs to be used properly. Have her grow up from the Logan movie.
There you go.
There's just so much, like so many things to consider, and it's so difficult with that. Why are comics so complicated?
Speaking of comics, if you want to get great prices on collected editions, go to InStockTrades.com, where you can get your collected editions for up to 50% off. Loyalty discounts add 2% to that. This coming Monday, we're giving away a $50 gift card to anyone out there, supplied by InStockTrades.com. $50 or more in an order in the United States gets you free shipping, fabulous customer service, fabulous packaging. It's InStockTrades.com.
Hey.
There we go. Quack, that's already over. Sorry. 2 weeks of OmniDog ended this past Monday. Didn't do a good job of keeping up with it on Instagram. I apologize for that, but I do have a haul, 2 weeks of OmniDog haul, where I timed everything so it came when she wasn't here. So I am gonna have a haul that's 2 weeks of OmniDog. So you can look for that, Quack. Thank you for asking.
So how did you have a good time for those 2 weeks at least?
Oh yeah, I dropped her off at the airport on 2 weeks ago Thursday morning, and then I stopped at 7-Eleven at 8:30 a.m. and got ice cream and candy bars for breakfast. And let's see, I watched Castlevania, all 10 episodes.
Okay.
I watched a bunch of Batman animated series.
Mm-hmm.
I read a ton of books. I feel like I watched something else that people were telling. Oh, I watched Beware of Mr. Baker, the Ginger Baker documentary.
Cool.
That was great. Because that's one thing I can't do is watch a lot of television uninterrupted around here. I didn't get to see Justice League, which I really tried hard to do, but I just didn't get it done. But yeah, I did. I ate terribly, and I watched a lot of television, and I read a lot of comics.
Did you pull a?
Sorry.
Did you pull a risky business and you slid across the floor in your underwear and socks?
No, I was too worried about hurting myself.
I think I'm gonna have a week long, like the same type of thing in the next month or two is when it is. So I'll have about a week of doing whatever. But I generally do whatever I want because like we set up the media room now that since all my books are out here, and now we have like I have a couch and a chair and all that stuff in front of a TV, so I can just sit there and privately watch movies, TV shows. So I've been watching from the beginning, rewatching Samurai Jack because I never watched the more recent season that was on, I guess, Adult Swim. So I'm about done with season 1 right now, but it's a lot of fun.
Oh, that's another thing I did. I watched all the shorts on the Superman Shazam movie, the Spectre, Green Arrow, Joe X. Those were good. I really like those.
What are your favorite sandwiches and summer drinks before we're done here?
Shorty, I haven't built the Rusty Bucket yet. My daughter and I are going to start out on the Batman 66 Batmobile. I did just order the Daily Bugle, so that's coming in.
That looks cool. Yeah,
I was pretty excited about that. And that is Weifel approved. She's the one that got me into it.
It's a big one.
Yeah. So I'm gonna I'm gonna build. I may build the bugle before I build the rusty bucket, Shorty.
I love that name.
And I still haven't caught up on Falcon and Winter Soldier. Damn it! It's only 6 episodes, but I still have to do that. Oh, here's a thank you, Brave and Bold, Brave and the Boys podcast. OmniDog is awesome as a fellow sober guy. I love his root beer reviews. Tomorrow will be 13 years, Brave and the Boys podcast. So thank you for the shout out.
That's amazing.
I forgot about it until my wife, after 34 years, figured out that the day we met is also my sobriety anniversary.
Wow.
Huh.
She just figured it out last week.
That's fantastic.
I thought it was May 25th. She's like, no, I looked. It's May 28th. Thank you for that, Brave and the Boys. Wait, somebody else wanted to shout out their podcast. Not Quack. Whoops, sorry. Jake Spencer. Oh, he's the Brave and the Boys. Okay, Jake, way to go. Oh, it's inspired by us. Who's the Brave and who's the Boys here?
I think kind of the opposite of what you were just saying. I recommended a guy to go check out the Civil War II show we did a few years back.
Oh my God.
That's a classic.
That was, yeah.
Well, yeah, we can still talk about favorite sandwiches and favorite summertime drink. My favorite summertime drink is what I'm drinking right now: cranberry juice and club soda.
Nice.
And my favorite sandwich would be, I don't know, Riley, that one you made today looked really good with the nuts.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn up the volume on my phone so I can play my song for everyone. I'm not gonna show the video because it's literally just me like pointing the camera at the different jars.
It's a good TikTok. It was funny.
I mean, I can. Let me see if I can.
Here, let me highlight you. This is where I got the idea for the sandwiches.
Got peanut butter and then cookie butter and then the Nutella topped with some jam. And I made a sandwich and then I got some milk and then I eat the sandwich and I liked it.
So I was singing along to some Rob Zombie Dragula. But yeah, so in case you missed it, it was a sandwich. It was a triple decker. I had 3 slices of bread, peanut butter, cookie butter, Nutella, and jam. I was then asked, how was the sandwich? And I said it was really good. It was actually not too sweet, which is surprising considering all of the spreads that were put on there. I thought it was going to be like absolutely just diabetes inducing. Like I thought I was going to go into a sugar coma after that, but I did not. My stomach only slightly hurt at that point. But if I was to do anything to make it better, like I think I would have to do a quadruple decker, and I would have to add marshmallow fluff, and sliced bananas, and then to go beyond, either grill it or griddle it, throw it in the air fryer, or pan fry it.
Whoa! What kind of bread?
I think just butter bread.
I like the
normal.
I like the idea of pan frying it, like peanut butter and bananas and bacon. Wasn't that Elvis' favorite sandwich?
Yeah.
That was,
I just put butter in the pan and then pan fry it in there.
That's also why Elvis blew up to like 300 pounds towards the end of his life.
Well, I was kind of hoping you were going to bring that up, but that's true. What's your favorite sandwich, Lou?
I'm pretty simple. I just like a good buffalo chicken sandwich.
Buffalo chicken sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good blue cheese or ranch.
Blue cheese.
Okay. I only recently started to actually enjoy blue cheese a little bit. Am I an adult now?
My wife still hates blue cheese. What kind of bread is that buffalo chicken sandwich on?
Oh, absolutely a brioche bun. Has to be a brioche.
And do you get this from someplace or do you make it yourself?
I make it myself with bacon. Yeah. It's pretty good.
With bacon, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, bacon.
Yeah,
And
you throw
ranch?
a little bit of blue cheese, bacon. It's pretty good.
And what are you drinking this summer?
You know, man, I'm from the South down here in Florida, so it's got to be sweet tea. That diabetic sweet tea.
I like sun tea. I think next to Maginot may have asked earlier. I like sun tea. That's a good summer drink too.
Did y'all
Mhm.
see what Chick-fil-A did? And they because like Arnold Palmer's, you can ask them for an Arnold Palmer. They mix together the tea and the lemonade. They gave it a name and they called it the Sunjoy.
Huh.
And I was like, you're not tricking anyone here. It's an Arnold Palmer. I'm trying to put the trademark next to your shit. I know what I'm ordering when I go to Chick-fil-A, and you're not gonna. I don't remember if I've mentioned it here, but I worked at Chick-fil-A for like 2 weeks or something,
I
and then I
heard
just
on your resume.
stopped showing up. It was
What's
not
that?
fun.
Oh, it wasn't fun?
Mm-mm. No, I did not. I never said my pleasure. I said like, you got it. Or
That's why you didn't last long.
Here it is.
yeah, they're like, oh, thank you so much. Yeah, no problem. You got it. And that was just my response. I mean, like, I wasn't saying it like on purpose. It was just that's because I was working 2 jobs. So like my other job, thank you, you're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, you got it. Thank you. And like other people I've noticed who like if you go to like a restaurant or a movie theater and they say my pleasure, they're like, if I say something like, do you work at Chick-fil-A or have you? And they're like, oh yeah, I just like they adopt that so that they always say it. But no, I didn't do it. But the reason I left though is because the container that the tea is in, it's supposed to have these rubber grips on it. And I'm freaking short, and like I'm supposed to lift it up on top of this, like this full tin container of tea lifted onto this thing, and the rubber grips weren't on there, so it was just metal, and it sliced into my hand. And so I went to the back and like spent a good 30 minutes cleaning my hand, like taking the blood off, disinfecting, getting a bandage, putting a glove on, and then going back out there and being like, hey, like I was just at the register, so it's not like I was infecting anything with my bloody hand. But I told them like, hey, the video from training that I did literally like last week said that if something happens, I need to tell you guys so you can fix it. And this fucker leans over and he's like, I cut myself on that all the time and you don't see me crying. And I was like, you know what, you're a bitch. And then I just didn't show up.
All right, guys, I got to bow out of this one. So
Yeah, I think we're at an end. It's been an enjoyable hour and 15 minutes. Riley, where can they find you making TikTok videos of awesome sandwiches?
If you do miss me talking a lot more about comics, the Omnibus Collector on TikTok, I am talking a lot more about comics on there than I have been on my channel. I have taken. I will be honest, like the reason why there's more focus on manga than there is comics is because there's such a huge new generation of collectors and readers. And I feel that as someone who's been reading and collecting manga for 20 years, that it's kind of my God-given duty to help them, especially during a tumultuous time when everything keeps selling out so fast. So that's why I've been focusing on that so much on the channel. But I have been posting a lot of comic related stuff on my TikTok, the Omnibus Collector. So if you're not against going on to this app with a bunch of Gen Zers, then check it out. Otherwise, I'll be on the channel. I've got
Sorry,
I've got the review coming up for World Peace. I just need to read it, and then I will post that. That is the sponsored review from Viz. And then I have a sponsored review from Baiyi, who I got a ton of stuff from Japan from. So that'll be coming up soon as well.
Awesome. Comics Guide?
Yeah, you can find me at Comics Guide 101 on Twitter and Comics Guide 101 on YouTube, where you can see my archive of old videos.
And you can find me, OmniDog, on OmniDog's Vault on YouTube.
Oh, sorry. My phone.
Did you open it?
No, I opened my phone up because I thought there was a notification, and I forgot that I had turned my volume all the way up.
You can find me, OmniDog, and OmniDog's Vault on YouTube and on Instagram, OmniDogs_Vault. Thank you to the chat. You guys were great tonight. Thank you to InStock Trades for being our sponsor and the gift card that we're giving away this coming Monday. And thank you to Omnibus Collector and Comics Guide for being here tonight. Peace and love, peace and love. And we'll play you out.